Gear up for Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. It's your final word on sports all across the state. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now here are your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Since day one, he always said I was that guy, and it feels good to know that you are that guy, the number one guy on the radar. And I'm thankful for Coach Muschamp. I love him to death. He's always supported me, and I'm glad that he's gonna be my future coach.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. From hot and humid Columbia, just the way it's supposed to be here in mid-June. Hope you had a great weekend, great Father's Day weekend. Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes, and Jared Rogers Martin, all together once again. Looking forward to another huge week of Sports Talk. We get it rolling in a big way tonight. Chad Holbrook joins us at 6:30 to talk with us about the past at USC and the Holbrook future. Stay tuned for that. Looking forward to having the former Gamecock baseball coach with us. Play continues at the College World Series where Florida State stayed alive this afternoon for their head coach, Mike Martin, who's out there for the 18th time seeking his first championship, first College World Series championship. Elimination game today against Cal State Fullerton, and it was Florida State coming away with the win this afternoon to advance in the tournament. We'll give you details on that coming up in a little bit. LSU and Oregon State winners bracket game coming up a little bit later on tonight. 6-4 Florida State. Cal State had a bit of a pitching meltdown late in that game. Whoever was on the mound for them loaded the bases, walked a couple of guys, gave Florida State the advantage. And the Seminoles did not relent from there. NBA draft this week. People have been waiting for that a long, long time with Thornwell and Dozier and Blossom game in particular. Word is from the NBA experts. It looks like Thornwell could be a second-round pick. And one guy I read believes that he'll be a sticker in the NBA, that he'll make an NBA team and contribute. Not so much hearing that on Dozier and Blossom game at this point. In fact, I'm not even seeing Jerron Blossom game in the top two rounds, which, means he made a mistake coming back as far as the draft is concerned, because I think after his junior year, it was thought that he would definitely be a draft pick.
I think he's about the same. He was projected maybe second round or not drafted at all. He wasn't projected as a first rounder when he decided to come back. So he was kind of a tweener to begin with. And Dozier, goodness, if he doesn't go in the first round, people will be questioning whether he made the right decision.
Well, I don't think he'll go in the first round.
No, he might not be drafted.
Yeah,
there's a better chance he won't be drafted than him going in the first round. But you never know what goes into these kind of decisions with people. But it is so difficult to get into the NBA and make the league. And you don't get drafted in the first round. You go late in the second round. You could be in the D League or not on an NBA roster, and you can still make money overseas. But you have an opportunity to use more of your eligibility in college, where you are, granted, you're playing for free, but then you can maybe move into a lottery pick where you get that guaranteed contract.
Well, as they say, it only takes one. That's how Ronaldo Bachman got drafted in the first round.
Good story about him in the state newspaper today.
But
really?
But the interesting thing is
talking about him in the draft back
then?
then?
Just talking about what kind of player he was.
I'll just never forget.
He was so entertaining, but at the same time, he was so just head-scratchingly frustrating for Dave.
That draft night, Michelle Schmidt, who was the basketball SID, called the Columbia media to inform us that Dave Odom was meeting with the media that night. And I said, why? And she said, to talk about Ronaldo Bachman. And I said, well, what'd he do? I hadn't been following the draft. Well, he was picked by the Knicks in the first round. And I'm like, what were they drinking?
I was surprised, but then again, I wasn't surprised because he got drafted by the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
Ronaldo Bachman arguably had two of the most dominant games in his USC career in that NIT.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, who did he remind him of? He reminded him of the Worm. What's the guy's name? Just came from North Korea. Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman.
And so, so It only took one, and that was it. Yeah, that's what they call the worm. Yeah. But, getting back to the draft, though, people got to remember guys like Draymond Green was a second-round pick.
Oh, yeah. You can make it as – look, I mean, Isaiah Thomas was the last pick in his draft class. And going to be a lot of trade talks and rumors between now and the draft is what, Thursday?
Thursday.
Is that right? It's going to be a lot of free agent talk. Kevin Durant talking about trying to save the Warriors some money, redoing his deal. Of course, you got the Paul George talk, the Jimmy Butler talk. There's a lot of stuff going on out there, as there always is when it comes to the NBA draft. Of course, yesterday, USC got its quarterback, Dakereon Joyner from Fort Dorchester. Went down to cover that because he is, I guess, depending on who you want to ask, the state's #1 player. Some might say it's somebody else. Some might say it's this guy, that guy, whatever. He's clearly the #1 quarterback in South Carolina. He's clearly had a fabulous career to this point. He clearly has a terrific story to tell. And he clearly is super confident that he's coming to South Carolina and is going to lead the Gamecocks to great things, either with or after Jake Bentley. And you'll hear from him coming up in just a little bit. But nicely done by Coach Steve LaPrade and the people there. It was I'm not crazy about these announcement things, maybe because I've grown used to the guys. 99% of them now just put something on Twitter, whether it's just tweeted out or they have a video or something put on Twitter. Every once in a while now you're having somebody do a gathering like this, either at a restaurant or at their school. He did it at his school. He had his teammates. He had family and friends there. He did it specifically for Father's Day to remember his late father. And it was nicely done. He came out and welcomed everybody, spoke very briefly. They did a video. They showed his highlights and then flashed the Gamecock up there. And that was it. And then he hugged his mom, broke down into tears, very emotional moment. And then he spoke with the media and we were done. So nicely done, as you would expect at Fort Dorchester, which is a classy program with a classy head coach. He has put out some really good players over the years. Robert Quinn, Carlos Dunlap Jr., the DB that went to Clemson, Matthew. Was it Matthews? Oh, help me. Plays in the NFL. Byron Maxwell. Byron Maxwell. So they've had a run of big time talent. And he says, Coach LaPrade says, Joyner, at the same age in the 9th grade, more talented than any of those guys, just in terms of pure talent. Mm-hmm. And now there's some people in the college football world, recruiters, who do not believe he will be a big time quarterback. Yeah. He's convinced he will.
Clemson was one of those people. They wanted him to be a DB.
Most likely.
Yeah.
They said, we'll give you a shot at quarterback. But look, they've got Hunter Johnson, Zarek Cooper, the hair coming. They're not hurting at quarterback.
Yeah. Well, you can never have too many, but what do you have to lose? You tell the guy, come in. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't get it, well, you want to play?
He made it clear. If you're not recruiting me for quarterback only, I'm not interested.
Right.
You can recruit me all you want. If it's not a 100% commitment to that, I'm not interested.
Well, I've never, the only thing I've seen is film on him and highlights, and his tremendously quick feet to avoid the rush. It's hard to find a guy who can both scramble and a guy who can move his quick feet but stay in the pocket. Mm-hmm. Usually it's a pocket passer does it. This young man, at least the highlights I've seen, seems to be able to do both and decide when he can gun it. And he has a gun. Of course, his mechanics will change a little bit as he gets older and when he gets to South Carolina. But, as they say, it's a lot of it mental and confidence, and he surely sounded confident yesterday.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He's not taking a back seat to anybody. So that's good. You want that in your quarterback. We'll hear from him coming up. Chad Holbrook at the bottom of the hour as well. Looking forward to talking with him. Of course, we've got a huge recruiting report for you. Your phone calls welcomed after the break. 800-956-7266. Who wants to be first up and on this week? 800-956-7266. We're back in a moment.
out.
We are back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, 800-956-7266 is our phone number if you would like to join us tonight. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC is how you can join us via the social, or as I like to call it, the anti-social media outlet. No USC baseball coach has been hired yet, if you're not aware. They are still looking. Our poll question, we're leaving it up because it's still timely. Our poll question is, who must Ray Tanner hire as USC's new baseball coach, regardless of the cost? The operative word there is must. He must hire this guy. It's the guy he must go and get. 33% are saying the Florida coach, Kevin O'Sullivan. 11.7% Monty Lee. Go get Monty Lee. 10% say Dan McDonnell from Louisville. Tim Corbin's at 8%, as is Tom Walter. You know,
Virginia's coach had how many votes?
Virginia's coach has 7.2%
Interesting.
of the votes.
Isn't he the only coach who actually was raised in Omaha? His home is Omaha, I think.
I think you're probably right. Of course, Tanner remains out in Omaha as part of the deal with the committee, but I'm sure he's also doing his work towards hiring his new coach. And the longer, Florida in particular stays in the CWS, the more the speculation is going to rise about Kevin O'Sullivan. And there's a lot of hot speculation about that in South Carolina. Of course, was it Mike Bianchi, one of the top reporters in Florida that covers the Gators, wrote a few weeks ago that there was no way O'Sullivan would go to South Carolina, would leave Florida. Mm-hmm. There are people who believe that he will if things can get worked out. And it would be it just depends on, his salary situation is very steep, and he's got a long-term contract. How much would he move off of that salary, if any? How much is South Carolina going to have to fork out just to get him in terms of his initial salary and the buyout? How deep is South Carolina willing to dig for its baseball coach? Now, they've never had to pay a lot at the beginning. When they hired Ray Tanner back in 1999, what were they paying him? What was Ray's original contract? Maybe a couple of hundred a year? And, of course, it grew.
Yeah, Don Staley was making more than him at one point.
Right. So it grew. And then, Chad was making $400,000 or maybe a little less than that. And it grew to about $400,000, I think. You're talking about starting out at $1 million plus if you're going to get Kevin O'Sullivan. Is South Carolina willing to do that?
Well, it's interesting. Morgan on the move. Mike Morgan said he would not. They couldn't get him either. I guess from a fan standpoint, Corn, and from a business standpoint, you almost think, okay, we get a solid, proven coach, and we strip a division rival of their coach. Is it worth that, taking the coach of a rival and putting him in your backyard? You have to think, is it worth it?
What makes Kevin O'Sullivan such a wanted and such a successful coach? What is it? His recruiting? And he was a pitching coach. That's his background.
Yes.
Is it his knowledge of pitching? I mean, is he more knowledgeable than a Jerry Myers is? Is he when it comes to the X's and O's of pitching? I mean, what is it that makes him such a successful coach?
One of the best pitching coaches in the country when he was at Clemson. A great recruiter at Clemson as well. And look what he's done at Florida. I mean, he has built that Gator program into a national power year in and year out. The Gators are right there, and they almost always have stud pitchers at the top of their order. I think
too many pitchers.
I think that a big reason why pitchers go there is they know that he understands how to use them. He doesn't overwork pitchers. He has a great reputation in the coaching community of a guy you can trust to take care of a future draftable prospect. So, and that's something that, Corbin, another former Clemson pitching coach, has that reputation at Vanderbilt as well. So I think that and the recruiting, that's what has turned him into the household name that he is in college baseball.
Well, we shall see. It's Ray Tanner's party, and he's inviting very few people to it, as far as I can tell, because there's been nothing that you can hang your hat on being talked about out there besides just the speculation or maybe just the wanting of Gamecock fans of they want that killer hire. They want that hire that's going to shake up the landscape of college baseball, and that can be good. Sometimes the quiet hire, the less known guy, the under the radar guy can also be a great hire for you, So we'll see what Ray decides to do. Now, earlier today in Omaha, elimination game, in Florida State beat Cal State Fullerton 6-4, has 46 wins for the Seminoles, and they scored 3 runs in the 7th inning to break it open. I mentioned a couple of those were bases loaded walks. 6, 7, and 1. They left 9. The Seminoles 4, 5, and 1. The Titans left 4. And Haney gets the win for Florida State. 2/3 of relief pitching, 2/3 of an inning. He improves to 3-2, and Carlton picked up his 7th save. And so the Seminoles, they stay alive in their quest for their first national championship in what is now 18 trips to the College World Series for Mike Martin. The games over the weekend, the first game of the tournament, Oregon State beat Cal State Fullerton. That was 6-5. LSU beat Florida State 5-4. Louisville, doing what Louisville does, they beat Texas A&M 8-4. Louisville now 53-10, and they had 11 hits in that game. McKay had 1 hit, but he pitched. He went 5 innings, allowed 4 runs. Maybe not his best outing. 4 earned runs, 8 hits. He struck out 6, and he walked 2. And so Louisville gets past Texas A&M in the opening round. And then it was Florida, talking about Florida pitching guys, shutting out TCU 3-0. Faedo winning to go to 8-2. Byrne picks up his 17th save. The Gators had 9 hits on the nights. They held TCU's potent offense to just 5 hits. And you know what they did also? And, of course, you don't play every day in the World Series. They don't play again until tomorrow. But they saved their bullpen. Faedo went 7 innings, allowed just 2 hits, struck out 11. And Byrne finished up with 2 innings of work. He allowed 3 hits, struck out 4, a total of 15 strikeouts for the Gators staff last night. So that's, the thing about their pitching, you talked about it too. They have a lot of power arms. Mm-hmm. They have guys that throw hard and get a lot of strikeouts. So a good start for the Gators for Kevin O'Sullivan last night, 48-18 with that win. Attendance last night, 23,543.
Well, TCU without the big bopper, who was named Baker, Lucan Baker last year, he got hurt.
Yeah.
That cost it. But to me, the teams that look dangerous are the ones that you wound and they come back on you. That's why Louisville is impressive. But Oregon State and LSU remind me of snakes. You got to beat them into the ground
Oregon
before
State,
you can bend them.
55-4.
Yes.
How do you go through a Division I big-time season losing 4 games to this point? 55-4.
Winning games you're not supposed to. They steal games. As I said before, I thought, maybe the clock would strike midnight on well, you can't call them Cinderella, but I thought they had so much good fortune to only lose 4 games that they get bitten in the College World Series.
Well,
so that 3-run homer in the first inning, I say, there we go, Oregon State, but they came back and won it.
They were down 5-1.
Mm-hmm.
They scored 4 runs in the 6th and 1 in the 8th. They left 13 on base in the game against Fullerton, and they found a way to come back to win. They used 3 pitchers, and they've won 55 out of 59 games. That's amazing. All right, we will come back and be joined by former USC coach Chad Holbrook. His hopefully it won't be his last appearance here on Sports Talk. Hopefully we'll talk to him again when he's coaching somewhere, maybe not too far away from the capital city. We'll be back. We are back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Glad to have you with us wherever you are dialed in around the state of South Carolina on a Monday. Very busy week ahead. Very busy Monday unfolding before you as we come to you from downtown Columbia. Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and the professor Tom Hayes, joined now by former USC baseball coach Chad Holbrook. Good to have him with us for the first time since his departure from Gamecock land. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing good, Phil. Hanging in there and spending some time with family. It's been an enjoyable couple of weeks, and just trying to be a good dad and a good husband to my kids and a good husband to my wife. And we're just trying to get used to not going to work every day. It's been a little bit difficult and a little bit strange, but all in all, everything's okay, and looking forward to our next adventure.
Yeah, I imagine, this has got to be the first time in maybe your life when you haven't been involved in something in baseball this time of year, whether it was playing or coaching or recruiting. How have you gotten your mind off of it? How have you occupied your time?
Well, I've watching my two kids play baseball. I've still been on the field pretty much every day, some way, shape, or form, either throwing batting practice to my two sons or going and watching them play. So I've rested my mind a little bit and taken a deep breath and kind of evaluating where I am and what I want to do next. And, whether it's stay in town here or look for our next adventure in coaching. And right now we're just kind of, taking a deep breath, relaxing a little bit. And like I said, as a family and as a human being, as a person, just looking forward to our next challenge. And hopefully we'll find that out, soon, maybe in the next couple of weeks or maybe before the end of June. I'll find out what we're going to do next.
Is there something percolating for you at some level, head coaching job somewhere, maybe an assistant's job somewhere? What's working for you right now?
Well, right now, it's, I'd rather not get into it. I mean, I've my ears are open. There's nothing on the table. There's no discussions or talks being had. I've spoken with a number of coaches across the country, both in and around the area and out of state. And right now, those conversations are more like just picking each other's brains about ideas and talking about baseball programs, talking about practice plans, talking about scheduling and all that kind of thing. There's not really been any deep discussions in regards to job opportunities. And, maybe that'll change in the next couple of weeks. Who knows? But right now, it's just conversations, just talk with baseball people across the country that, that I've grown close to and have friendships with.
You feel your baseball reputation around the country is still good when you talk to other coaches, even though, you took this little ding at South Carolina at the end?
About how I'm thought of in the coaching fraternity, both locally and nationally, to be honest with you. I've spoken with a number of coaches, and like I told you guys, I'm holding my head high. There's nothing to be to feel bad about. I mean, I've won 40 games a year, and just 365 days ago we were sitting here having hosted a super regional and won the Southeastern Conference Eastern Division and finished ahead of some great teams. And we had some unfortunate things happen to our group this year, but I'm not going to let that define my coaching career. And I want to get back in the dugout as quick as I can. And my wife kind of has been telling me to take a year off and take a deep breath and really evaluate what you want to do. And I'm one of those guys that wants to get back in the dugout as quick as I can.
When you went into your meeting, and it's been a couple of weeks, of course, since this came down, when you went into your meetings with Coach Tanner at the end of the year, what were your expectations going into those meetings?
No, me and Coach, I didn't have any expectations. I mean, me and Coach have shared our feelings on a personal level over the course of the last 9 years, and it wasn't going to be any different in those meetings. And I wasn't expecting – I didn't have expectations. I knew that, that South Carolina was supposed to be playing in NCAA tournaments and NCAA regionals, and our team wasn't doing that. We weren't quite there, and I knew there was going to be disappointment there. There was no one more disappointed, than me. And we just had some frank conversations, Phil, and those are going to remain private, and no one has more respect for Coach Tanner than I do, and I feel like he cares deeply about me and our family as well. And I leave South Carolina with a great relationship with Coach, great relationship with President Fastides, and many board members that have been so close to me, and many people that have given a lot to South Carolina over the years as donors and as fans. For that, I feel so lucky, that I got so many people in my corner, and I include Coach Tanner in my corner because he's been such a great guy to me. And at the end of the day, I just thought it was best that move on to our next adventure. I think it was best for Coach. I think it was best for the University of South Carolina, and we'll go that way, and hopefully it'll work out for the Holbrook family over the course of time.
When it hit you in your course of your discussions that this was it at South Carolina, that you were going to be moving on somewhere else for whatever reason, what was your reaction at that moment when he made it clear that he had to move in another direction?
Well, my reaction when I knew I wasn't going to coach, again, I'm not going to talk about too much of what Coach and I spoken about, but when I knew I wasn't going to be the coach anymore, it was more of, okay, I've been one of those guys that have been knocked down before. I've had some tough things happen in my life, and both from my kid getting diagnosed with cancer to losing my mom, and there's been a lot worse things happen to me than not coaching the Gamecocks anymore. And while I treasured my time here, I also realized I had a great opportunity. I've had great experience, met great people. There's nothing but positive things that I'm going to think about in my 9 years here. I mean, heck, I went to 3 College World Series, 3 National Championship Series, hosted 2 other Super Regionals. So 5 of my 9 years, I was either in Omaha or in a Super Regional. You can measure that up against anybody you want. That's pretty good. And so I've been blessed. And I will treasure my experience here, treasure my time here, treasure my relationships here with Coach Tanner and everyone that I've come close with, from our coaches to our players, to our supporters, to our people that behind the scenes, the Andrew Kiddicks of the world that helped our program. And again, it's tough because those people were so close to me and close to our family, and there's some sad feelings there because the friendships were deep. But at the same time, there's excitement of what's next, and there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm going into our next adventure and waiting to see what that is. And I can't wait for that. I'm ready to take on a challenge, and I hope I'm afforded one. Who knows if it'll be this year, or who knows, it might be next year. But I think somebody down the road will want me in their dugout, and I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed that'll happen.
Your dad was a great basketball coach, and he was fired at Furman. And unfortunately, I was there when that happened to him. So I've seen both of you kind of go through this. Did you learn something from how he handled that situation and leaned on that memory a little bit, or experience a little bit in how you've dealt with this in the same classy manner as he handled that time at Furman?
Well, I was so young back then. My dad, I guess, quit coaching at Furman in 1984. I was 13 years old, and there was I just grew up, in a coaching house. I don't know if what he went through at Furman was something that I gained experience from. I just know that there's a lot of coaches out there, and many in the Hall of Fame, and some of the best in the business that have been fired or had to resign or have had difficult stays at a particular franchise or organization. So I'm not going through anything that a number of coaches, and a great number of coaches, and a number of Hall of Fame coaches haven't gone through. And so all you can do is you lay your head down at night and you feel good about the effort you gave. You did the best that you could. If you feel like you've done everything you can for the program that you were involved with, for the players that were you involved, for your coaches, and you feel like you tried your best and you did your best, you can hold your head high. And I certainly feel that way. And like I said, there's a lot of programs out there that like to win 40 games a year and go to the NCAA tournament and have a pretty good record. And I hope I'll get that opportunity to continue my coaching career.
All right, hang on. Right back to you. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornblut, Professor Tom Hayes, K-Mac Kevin McCrary. Full recruiting report coming up for you in a few minutes. You'll hear from DeCarrion Joyner. Tell you about another commitment we're expecting for USC tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. But more importantly, a few more minutes with former USC baseball coach Chad Holbrook. So they termed it a resignation, and we asked Coach Tanner about that in several different ways at the press conference back then. I know from your meeting with the media right after the season, you talked about going recruiting and rebuilding and getting back to the tournament the next year. You didn't sound like somebody who was set to resign. Did you have an option to come back to South Carolina?
Well, like Coach said in the press conference and like the release said, Phil, I'm not going to get into that. We did speak about a number of different things, Coach Tanner and I, and and a lot of times, I mean, as you go through the conversations, I begin strongly before the conversations even went too deep about job security or job status. That my mind was thinking long and hard about resigning. It was in my mind before the conversations came to a peak or came to an end. And and like Coach said at the press conference, and like the release said, Coach was great. It was a resignation. It was something I felt deeply about and strongly about as the conversations took place. And at the end of the day, I just felt that was best for Coach Tanner. I felt it was best for the University of South Carolina. I felt it was best for the baseball program. And most importantly, who I have to look after first, I thought it was best for the Holbrook family and my wife and Jen and Reese and Cooper. And that's how we'll leave it. And it was all done in a first-class way. And like I said, I feel great about where I'm at. I feel great about where I'm going. And I feel great about the great 9 years that we had at South Carolina.
Chad, now that you've had a few weeks to kind of decompress with everything, have you thought about anything that if you could do over again, that you would? Anything you'd change?
There's so many different thoughts that you evaluate yourself very closely. After good seasons and after bad, coaches do that. You evaluate yourself on a daily basis. Heck, you evaluate yourself after one practice, and you ask yourself if that practice was good or not. So it's something that you do, and as coaches do all the time. And yeah, there are things that you maybe like to tweak here and there. One of the things I said, I wish I had a perfect potion, so to speak, to alleviate the pressure that players feel. If there's something I want to do a better job of, it's that. It's releasing the pressure that players put on themselves when they're in a tough environment or an environment in which expectations are so high. And I'd like to do that better. I think our players were uptight from time to time, and they're trying so hard. And sometimes when you try so hard in this game, you don't play the way you're capable of playing. And I want to find that perfect remedy there to let the players relax and play. And as hard as I tried doing that, maybe I tried too hard. And that's something I'd like to do better going forward. And as coaches, there's a lot of things. And but that's just one thing that sticks out. When you're in an environment with expectations high, you gotta relax your players as best you can. And I felt like sometimes our players were trying so dang hard. They put a lot of pressure on themselves, and they took it out on the field. And that's something I feel some responsibility for.
Did you think that even though you didn't make the tournament this year, knowing what you had coming back and what you have coming in the recruiting class, how'd you feel about your prospects for 2018?
Well, I think the team is shaping up to be a great team. The position players are going to be terrific if they stay healthy, and you get Chris Cullen back behind the plate, and Jonah Browder returned to third, and the infield's intact, and obviously you got a dynamic player in Carlos Cortez, and you got some really dynamic recruits coming in. And if T.J. Hopkins is healthy and recovered from his quad injury, you're going to have a lot of great athletes on the field. I think the key to the team is going to be how the young pitchers throw and step up. And there's a few, Gatorade Players of the Year coming in, and some highly touted pitchers coming in to fill some of those voids that we lost. And like I said, I'm going to be a big fan of the team next year. I'm going to cheer hard from wherever I'm at. Those kids I've gotten to know and obviously very, very close with. And I'm going to wish them well. I hope it's a team that can end up in the College World Series. And if they do, there won't be anybody happier than Chad Holbrook.
Well, it's interesting. It seems like anything that did go wrong with you this season, especially those last swings of the bat. This team could have given up on you, but do you take solace of how they played when they got to the tournament in Hoover?
I do. I mean, there was a lot of times when adversity was tough and we had lost some heartbreakers, and I wondered if the spirit of the individual or if the team had been broken. And to see them come to the park every day and lay it on the line, especially the way they played in Hoover, I do feel good about that. It lets them know that it makes me feel like they believed in what we were trying to do, and they were going to play hard for the program, the jersey they were wearing. They're going to play hard for the coaching staff and try to will themselves into the NCAA tournament. And many thought that they had done that, and they were certainly awfully close, but it was just probably too much to overcome with some of the losses that we had, and that's we understand that part. And we just fell a little bit short, but it was encouraging to see how hard they played and how well they played in some big moments when their backs were against the wall, and they tried to will themselves into the NCAA tournament.
Chad, last week you took out an advertisement in the newspaper thanking the fans, and I mean it's been well documented. How hard a lot of those fans were on you. What led to that decision?
I had 9 great years here, and there's a lot of fans that have been very, very good to the Holbrook family and me. And I came to South Carolina 9 years ago because I wanted to be in this environment. I wanted to be in an environment where there was a passionate fan base. We played in a great league, had a chance to go to the College World Series, and have a chance to be a part of a national championship team. And, man, I got to experience that. And I owe a lot. I mean, there were some games, in those runs in which we were in the NCAA tournament and fighting, our fans wouldn't let us lose. And there's so many fans that have reached out to me, once my coaching career here at South Carolina were over. And, fans that knocked on my door, left me letters, calls. I just felt like they'd given me so much that the least I could do as a coach is let them know how much I appreciated them, how much I appreciated the experience that our family had at South Carolina, how much I loved every minute of it. I wanted to, that ad came from the heart, and that's how I feel. It wasn't something to get fans or people back in my good graces. That's not what it was. It was something that came from the heart. That's how I felt. And, I love my experience and my time here. And I hope they saw that in the ad, because that picture was a moment in time, with one of my favorite players in Scott Wingo. And it's certainly a moment that I'll never forget. And I know that moment made a lot of fans happy. And I know our program made a lot of fans happy over the years. And I was just grateful to be a part of that.
Well, we thank you so much for being with us tonight and all the times over the last 5 years as the Gamecock head coach that you joined us here on Sports Talk during the good and the bad. More good than bad, no doubt about it. And I know we'll hear from you again soon. And again, thank you so much. The best to you and your family.
Phil, you guys, Mike, I really appreciate that. I really appreciated my time here, and hopefully you'll hear from me soon. And maybe you'll ask me to come back on here in the near future. Thanks so much.
You got it, sir. Thank you. Chad Holbrook, former USC baseball coach, visiting with us here on Sports Talk. We thank him so much. And, we're going to hear from Chad Holbrook again somewhere not too far down the road in terms of time, and who knows in terms of distance. There'll be some things opening up. If not immediately this year, then certainly next year. Maybe he'll find a top assistant's job, or he'll find a place to go where he can continue to coach
Sounds
baseball.
Like some stuff could be cooking there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, best of luck to him. And the next guy that comes in at South Carolina will have the benefit of having Chad Holbrook as the bridge between himself and Ray Tanner, which is, it's like Phil Bingston following Vince Lombardi. Of course, it took the Packers many years to get it right after Vince Lombardi retired. But you see my point. Being the guy that follows the guy is the guy that you really want to be. It's so hard to follow that guy that set the bar so high as Tanner did. All right, top of the hour break. We'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Monday night. Thank you so much for being with us. Thanks again to Chad Holbrook for spending a good half hour or so with us here on the program. Not easy to talk about losing what no doubt was a dream job for him, becoming the head coach of the University of South Carolina, even though he's a North Carolina guy. Grew up in North Carolina, went to Chapel Hill, played in North Carolina, assistant coach at North Carolina. But he came to South Carolina to assist Ray Tanner, no doubt with the idea of being the head guy at some point in time, and he got that opportunity.
Yeah.
And he did not fail. A lot of people will say he failed. He did not fail. 40 games a year, 3 NCAAs in 5 years, 2 super regionals. I mean, maybe – I don't know what is an acceptable average.
Mm-hmm.
3 tournaments every 5 years at a program like South Carolina, maybe not acceptable. Maybe it's got to be 4 out of 5. Maybe it's got to be 5 out of 5 to some people.
Maybe they were going to go on a run where they made it 10 straight years.
Who knows?
After that. I mean, he didn't get the opportunity to do that. This season, as Pro pointed out during the interview, about everything that could have possibly gone wrong went wrong. But even before this season, I remember writing our little preview of the baseball season, and it was Chad Holbrook will take more heat than any coach in America. That was before the season.
Mm-hmm.
They were coming off a 40-win season and a super regional, and it just the fans were on him, and I think that affected him. I do, and I think in turn, and he kind of alluded to this, it affected his players, and they played tight and with too much pressure, and that's probably one of the reasons why he was thinking about resigning even before he talked to Ray Tanner. Sometimes things are just so toxic, that you need to separate yourself and move on, and that's the case. Now, where South Carolina goes remains to be seen, but whoever they hire, they might hire a guy. It's going to be hard to top. I mean, what they had in Holbrook, a great recruiter, one of the best in the country, they don't win those World Series without him.
Yeah.
So his run at South Carolina, if you could go back in time and sign up for that Chad Holbrook 9 years again, you do it in a heartbeat, even knowing that you're going to miss the postseason 2 out of 5 years. You're going to win 3. You're going to win 2 titles in that run.
And based on the revelations that he shared with us, that going into the conversation or leading up to it, he was already thinking of resigning in his mind. So I have to take a step back from my questioning of Ray Tanner and say, you are correct, sir, when you said that it was a resignation. I was pressing for a firing. I wanted to hear the word fire. I had that in my mind because in my mind, Chad Holbrook wasn't going to resign. You had to fire him to make the change. But apparently, based on what Chad shared with us tonight, he had in his mind and in his conversation with Ray. And I think the way that not being there, but just kind of putting the pieces together, my thinking is that Chad felt like, I'll take this off of Coach Tanner's back. He's getting the pressure. I'm getting the pressure. I'll take the high road here and offer up my resignation just to make it easy for everybody involved.
So if you could go back in time and go back to the press conference, you would have asked your last question first. Did you try to talk him out of it?
Well, he did ask that too, and you asked.
No, I'm saying he would ask it first.
Right.
But I really think that.
But you don't know. I mean, that's why you have press conference.
It might have been for the best, because had he come back, the pressure would have been just as intense next year. Fans have already written him off, and it would have been very hard, short of them going to Omaha. Anything less than that, the fans probably would have just chalked it up as another failure. Every time the Gamecocks lost a game, or even when they fell behind, it would just get so nasty. And Corn, you were at that stadium. I was at that stadium. I'm all over social media. I saw it. It was real. And I know Gamecock baseball fans in particular are very sensitive about this, but deep down they know. There's a reason why they protest so much, because they know they were all over him. And they can say now, we were right. He deserved to go, and he's gone. But I don't think they did themselves any favors from a reputation standpoint. And there have been national baseball writers that saw snapshots of it that have written about it. It's LSU fans are intense and crazy, and it worked out for them. I get it. South Carolina fans want to say that's the expectations they have, but you kind of treated a pretty darn good baseball coach, in my opinion, pretty poorly.
Well, let's hope that he lands on his feet, gets a head coaching job where he's happy, and can go back to winning baseball games and recruiting and coaching and doing what he really loves. All right, I want to shift gears and get into recruiting. So I need my welcome music, please.
I said the King's in the building. Tell me how you feeling. Yeah, I said the King's in the building. Tell me how you feeling. Yeah, I said the King's in the building.
Are we just playing this on a loop now?
Yeah, I said the King's in the building.
And you don't have to drive a Kia to be the king. Just keep that in the back of your mind. No, I doubt he drives a Kia as well. Though, listen, nothing wrong with a nice Kia. Got no problems with it. The king yesterday was Decarion Joyner down at Fort Dorchester as he announced his commitment to South Carolina. What did you hear from Coach Roper and from Muschamp about their offense and how they see you fitting into their offense moving forward?
They definitely need a dual-threat guy. Jake Bentley does an incredible job, but in some places where they shut down the run game and a running back or shut down the pass game, a dual-threat quarterback kind of plays a big part inside the game. He's kind of the eraser of the game. If a play break down, he can make it happen. So yeah.
Knowing that Jake's going to be there maybe 2 more years, how do you see yourself fitting in? Do they talk about a special package for you?
Not at all. Well, we talk, but I think I should keep that private. But just trust the process, and if it's meant to be, it'll be. And if I made the wrong decision today, then I did. But I trust and believe in God that He will never leave me wrong. So whatever happens, happens.
When Muschamp arrived at South Carolina, they made you a priority from day one. What did that sort of mean to you?
Kind of meant a lot, Since day one, he always said I was that guy, and it feels good to know that you are that guy, the number one guy on the radar. And I'm thankful for Coach Muschamp. I love him to death. He's always supported me, I'm glad that he's gonna be my future coach.
When you think about your future, when people see you as a great athlete, quarterback, could you see yourself in the NFL as a quarterback, knowing you've made this commitment to go for that position only?
Yes, I can. Yes, sir.
And you feel that way because
I trust and believe in myself. I know what I can do, and I work hard every single day, and I would never let anyone tell me differently. So,
how much motivation do you take from hearing that kind of stuff, people questioning your abilities?
To the full extent, 100%. You got doubters. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions. I don't listen to it. I pray every day, and I know God got me. So.
How big of a role did your father play in your football career?
100%. My dad only was there to see one of my football seasons, my first football season. I was glad he was there. And, I used to pray before every game with him. That's what I still kind of do now. He's always there. He was always there 100%. He never doubted me. Always believed in me since day one.
You made this decision like back in May and told the coaches. How difficult was it to keep it private, keep it from leaking out?
I guess I thought it would be, but, I trusted Coach Muschamp. I trusted them to the fullest, and I know they wouldn't, leak it. And this is, I guess it shows why I trust him, because he didn't leak it at all. So, yeah.
When you told him of your decision that you were coming, what was his reaction? What did he and Coach Roper have to say to you?
I can't really remember. It was so a while back, but I know he's excited. He was proud of me, and he was like, thank you for trusting me and believing in the staff, and now they got to get guys on board with me so we can go in as SC. So.
What do you foresee for the program with you and others like you joining it? What kind of success are you expecting in South Carolina?
We're going to have to work. Those guys are working on, but from starting the SEC East, then I won the SEC, the whole SEC, then I won the national championship. I'm saying it now and I mean it.
He's saying it now and he means it. Decarion Joyner, the king in the house, the king in the building down at Fort Dorchester yesterday. A good-looking athlete in person, and if you watch his highlight video, you can tell he's a very talented dual-threat quarterback. And like I said earlier, a guy with a ton of confidence that he'll bring to USC in 2018. Really good pickup for USC. We'll talk more about that, give you the rest of the recruiting report after this break here on Sports Talk. Oregon State out to a 1-0 lead early on LSU. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. If you want to chime in on anything we talked about tonight, the interview with Chad Holbrook, 800-956-7266 is our number. If you missed the interview, it'll be up on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. You can go back and check it out there. To the rest of the recruiting information, again, to carry on Joyner picking South Carolina, 110% committed. In fact, he said he's going to work on some other people like Xavier Thomas and Stephon Wynn to try to get them to join him because, as he put it, to win a national championship, I need other guys around me to help me win. Come play with a baller, he said. Everybody wants to play with a good quarterback. Hopefully, they jump on board. Of course, his numbers last year, 3,642 passing yards, 44 touchdowns, rushing for 1,089 yards and 12 touchdowns. Big-time numbers at the highest level. They played for the state championship last year. They opened their season at Dorman. Week 2 at Dutch Fork. Fort D is not messing around when it comes to the opponents outside of their league. They're going to play the best in the state of South Carolina, or two of the best, two of the toughest, on the road. They feel like they have that kind of a team. Coach LaPrade, they have a receiver who's very good, who could eventually later on this summer earn some big-time offers once they see how his academic situation looks. And he is a guy that South Carolina has looked at some as well. On to other news. The Gamecocks could very well pick up another commitment tomorrow. Defensive end Dantrell Barkley of Kannapolis, North Carolina, Independence Junior College in Kansas, plans to make his commitment announcement tomorrow. Visited USC earlier this month, scheduled to visit NC State this coming Saturday. Indications to us are the Gamecocks are in real good shape with him at this point, and he's going to announce something tomorrow afternoon. Also, defensive end Jabari Ellis, Lake Marion product, who goes to Georgia Military Junior College. Visited USC earlier this month. He was at NC State on Saturday. His decision is down to those two. He will announce July 4th in Orangeburg. He's had USC as his favorite, but after his visit to State, he said the Gamecocks and Wolfpack are in a dead heat. He said it was a great visit, and what stood out the most was they took him right to the academic center, which he enjoyed that. He said the defensive line depth chart at NC State also stood out to him because they lose a lot of people off their defensive line. He sees a chance for early playing time there, and that's big to him. However, Will Muschamp texts him every day. He's also been talking with defensive line coach Lance Thompson. He's visited USC 3 times since being offered in February. He does not feel the need for another visit before making his decision. Back to the Gamecocks for a moment. The commitment by Joyner is the 9th new commitment for the 18 class and the 5th from South Carolina. You throw in the holdover from last year, Tyreek Johnson, that gives you 10. I was looking at the Gamecocks scholarship breakdown as it stands now and trying to figure out how many they could sign. The Gamecocks right now have 76 on scholarship, and they have 11 seniors. So that means you'll be at 65. That does not assume any other attrition. So if you're holding with those 65, then you could sign 20 in this class, which would put you back at 85. That is, again, assuming that the attrition level is low. But that's interesting that here, that includes the incoming freshmen, those who are already in and those who are coming. USC right now would go into the season with only 76 on scholarship, which means there'll be plenty of room to take walk-ons and hand out some scholarships to deserving players for this coming season, if Muschamp decides to do that. On to other news. Receiver Justin Ross of Phoenix City, Alabama, yesterday announced the top 5 of Clemson, Alabama, Auburn, Florida State, and Florida. Recently visited Clemson. Defensive back Tay Barber, Cypress Springs, Texas, Sunday, announced the top 12 of Clemson, Arizona, Iowa State, Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma State, Ole Miss, Stanford, Tennessee, TCU, Utah, and West Virginia. 2020 Myrtle Beach quarterback Luke Doty was offered by North Carolina. USC offered 2019 defensive lineman Jalen Nichols 6'5", 300 from Charlotte. Florida State offered defensive back Israel Mukuyamu, formerly of Berkeley, now living in Louisiana. He also picked up an offer from South Florida. Quarterback Carter Bradley of Jacksonville gaining more interest from USC. Kurt Roper scouted him during the spring. The Gamecocks have invited them for their camp and during July 21st. He plans to attend. He recently visited Florida and Georgia. He's going to Ole Miss and LSU as well as USC. LSU is showing a lot of interest. Purdue and West Virginia offered last week. He also has offers from Pitt, Wisconsin, Rutgers, South Florida, Cincinnati, Marshall, and FAU. Tight end Tommy Trimble, Johns Creek, Georgia, is a top tight end target for USC, several others. He was back at USC on Friday for a camp session and said he really loved the visit, likes the coaching staff. He has USC very high on his list with Georgia, Tennessee, Notre Dame, and UCLA. He went to Tennessee Saturday. He's going to Notre Dame this week. Defensive end Dorian Gerald of Florence, College of the Canyons, California, took visits to USC and Tennessee earlier this month while home for a brief break from school. He's not planning any more visits until his officials in the fall, and the contact from USC remains regular. He's still hearing every day from Muschamp, he said. He called Muschamp his guy. He plans to take his official visits, and he has one set with Louisville on September 16th. Lineman Austin Donaldson of Stockbridge, Georgia, was at a USC camp last week. He's working for an offer from the Gamecocks. It hasn't come yet. He's still hopeful of one down the road. And they said that they will reevaluate his film this upcoming season. He has some FCS offers and the Georgia Southern offer as well, also one from Buffalo and Georgia State. USC target offensive lineman Jerome Carvin, Cordova, Tennessee, went to Tennessee over the weekend. Tennessee had their what they call their orange carpet day on Saturday. Defensive back Isheem Young of Philadelphia has Clemson in his final 6 July 18 commitment, along with Penn State, Alabama, Maryland, Ohio State, and West Virginia. Clemson offered 2019 defensive lineman Jaquez Sarles, Largo, Florida. He's a Florida commitment. And 2019 defensive back Cameron Kelly, Chesapeake, Virginia. USC offered 2019 defensive back Wesley Walker of Nashville. 2021 quarterback Chase Martin of Blythewood was at USC's camp. He's been working with Perry Orth and Stephen Garcia. 2021. That would put him in what? The 8th grade?
I think so.
Up and comer. 2019 tight end Kyle Bilodeau, Mechanicsville, Virginia, visited Clemson. NC State has offered him. 2019 athlete Vaughn Singletary, Hawkinsville, Georgia, camped at Clemson. 2019 quarterback Eric Phoenix of Savannah was at USC's quarterback camp. Clemson running back target Mir White, Carolina, was at North Carolina this past weekend. Of course, she's the #1 running back in the country, they say. And he announces a week from tomorrow. Clemson, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, maybe a little Ohio State in there. USC target defensive lineman Rick Sandage of Concord, North Carolina, was at Ohio State Friday, Michigan Thursday. Conway receiver Jawan Moody committed to East Carolina. McCormick running back Mateo Durant named a top 5 of Duke, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, Georgia Tech, and Wofford. USC's in the top 6 with defensive back Jermaine McMillan of Miami, along with Mississippi State, NC State, Ole Miss, Temple, and Baylor. And USC on Sunday offered place kicker Nicholas. Now, hang on just a second. I'm going to look up the pronunciation just to get it right. Nicholas Skiba. USC offered him from Clover. He also has offers from Virginia Tech and Wake Forest. Think we got it.
Nice.
Got anything, K-Mac, to add?
I'm going to hang on to my stuff for later.
Pro, you got any recruiting
No, I'm
information?
waiting for the
Got some
walk-ons.
big stuff cooking, though. Big.
You like it, huh?
Real big.
Yeah.
Huge.
We'll be back here on Sports Talk. Back on Sports Talk, 800-956-7266, the number if you'd like to join us on the program tonight. Got some email to get to as well. Oregon State is leading LSU 1-0. Bottom of the second. This is a winner's bracket game in Omaha. 1-2-0 for Oregon State, and LSU has just the one hit thus far. The pitchers tonight, Eric Walker going for LSU, and Bryce Fimmel going for Oregon State. Oregon State showing off some of that speed in the outfield a moment ago as they had somebody run down a fly ball heading towards the wall. They have speed. They have pitching. And I guess they hit pretty well, too. And 55, what did we say, 55-4?
55-4 with ERA of 1.86. You don't have to hit that well.
Oh, look at that. They just gunned down the runner trying to steal.
Mm-hmm.
They do the, you know what?
The little things. They do the little things. I
don't know the first thing about their coach, but they do the little things well.
Pat Casey.
I have no idea.
He's been there for about, what, I want to say, 17, 18 years or something. But he's got 2 national championships.
They went back.
Just ask North Carolina. He went back to back. I think it was the Tar Heels both times. What, 07 and 08, or was it 06, 07?
But didn't they kind of fade away after that for a little while?
Well, they were there, but they didn't get to Omaha. They were decent.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, in this day and age, if you're not getting Omaha, you're fading away.
Yeah.
I guess. They look good. They look good so far. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Let me take a look at some of the email we have in our email box. Mary has sent us a couple of emails. What's the latest on Mike Hughes? He's still out in summer school at Garden City and kind of in limbo out there. Academically, trying to get things finished up to see if he can move on somewhere. What position will Stephen Davis Jr. play at USC? Either running back or safety. You know, he was a safety most of his career until his senior year. Coach Tom Knotts was not all that happy with him at safety. Moved him to running back, and in his first game scored 7 touchdowns. First or second game before he hurt his knee. Mm-hmm. Remember, he had that night he scored 7 touchdowns in one game. So I don't know if they view him as a running back or as a safety at this point.
Does he grow into a linebacker, you think?
I don't think so. Okay. I don't think so. One more from Mary. As much as you love the Yankees and the Gamecocks, please answer on the radio as much as you love. Thank you, Mary. Why have you not bragged on Jordan Montgomery? He's doing great. K-Mac, since you love the Gamecocks and I love the Yankees, we'll have a combination brag on Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You lead off.
He is just killing it. I think he's probably going to win the Cy Young, and I think he's probably going to go to the Hall of Fame.
You know what I think, in all seriousness? You wouldn't be able to relate to this because you don't know the Yankees, but to me, he's a new version of Andy Pettitte.
I don't know who Andy Pettitte is.
Well, in terms of
obscure Yankee.
No, but you don't know him in
Andy
terms of
Pettitte.
his demeanor on the mound, his
that's pretty,
pitching style.
That's pretty lofty.
What he likes to
company to be.
Well, Andy Pettitte was not. Listen, Andy Pettitte came from where? Seton Hall. Yeah, no, St. John's. He was St. John's.
No, you're not intimating that he'll also go and get some of that enhancement.
He had one shot.
He admitted it, though.
In the bus.
Andy Pettitte was one of the top pitchers in baseball.
He was.
So,
but you watch Jordan Montgomery pitch, and it looks like, is he throwing a sinker? He throws a breaking ball that goes down hard. Looks like a sinker, kind of like what Andy Pettitte used to throw a lot into the dirt. Left-handed, about the same size. Similar demeanor on the mound. That's all I'm saying. I'm not suggesting he's going to have Andy Pettitte type success. This is from Mike talking about transfers. I can see where a university might have a problem with a player transferring to a school they play that year. The transfer would have knowledge that could create an unfair advantage. He's talking about coaches blocking players from transferring to schools.
Once you get hit in the head one time, all that knowledge ain't gonna mean a hill of a bean. Hill of beans.
Well, I do believe that once you graduate, there should be no restrictions.
Yes,
you have earned your right at that particular. You have paid your dues to your original school. You've done everything athletically and academically that you signed up for when you signed the national letter, you should be free without restriction to go wherever you want to go. And ideally, that was you were supposed to be able to transfer to a place that offered the postgraduate studying that you wanted to pursue that you didn't have at your school. Now it's become it's another recruiting. It's become a whole nother level. I mean, coaches are now, they'll tell you, especially in basketball, coaches about January, they're scouring the rosters and the stats to see which upperclassmen who are graduating with eligibility aren't getting much playing time, and they're becoming
the waiver wire.
Exactly.
Well, see, one of the things I think the NCAA does not do, and they ought to do, and people used to fret at me when I used to run an office, is when you implement a new rule, sit around and brainstorm on how this can be used. Mm-hmm. And they don't do that. They just turn it out. Anything they put out there, you could tell that somebody is going to take advantage of it and abuse it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, it's intriguing too how they're letting guys transfer now. I mean, we talked about, was this on the air or off the air? We talked about David Williams and where he's going to end up.
Well, I don't think we really talked about the fact that he ended up at Arkansas.
I mean,
and that's on South Carolina's schedule.
Yeah, they play him.
So why? I mean, does Muschamp believe you don't block him?
Well, that's a good question. Or maybe because, and I say kudos to Muschamp for not blocking.
Or did he just miss this because he originally committed to UConn? Remember,
and then he went from UConn and out. So that's the loophole. You commit somewhere else.
He committed somewhere else.
But I still have to think. So they released him to UConn, and then he pulls an about face. Either way, I don't know that happened. I would like to think that South Carolina just said, "Look, best of luck to you wherever you go." I mean, that's the Steve Spurrier.
Steve Spurrier, yeah.
That's what he didn't care where you went.
You could go to Clemson.
The Darren Hambrick went from Florida to South Carolina.
He did.
SEC East, and Spurrier said, "Okay, wherever." He never blocked anybody from transferring anywhere, and I think that's the best policy for a coach to have.
I agree. 800-956-7266. U.S. Open over the weekend. Very disappointing. That's supposed to be a bloodbath. That's supposed to be the one tournament where we 15 to 20 handicappers get some pleasure watching scores like ours. Well, not even like ours, but you get my point. Not something 15 under par. Mm-hmm. We're talking even par, +1, 1 under. Yeah, I think what happened was, and we'll talk with George about this at the end of the week. If you look at it, first of all, they had great weather all 4 days. Okay, yes. A little windy yesterday, but for the most part, no rain. Nothing to make it miserable on the golfers. Then number two, if you just kept it in the fairway, and didn't put it in the hay, you had a chance.
What they call that grass?
And these guys are pretty good at keeping in the fairway.
Exactly. And then the greens were really good, and they were rolling extremely well. You could make a putt. You could stand up there and make a putt. And it all came together. These guys were 15 under, 14 under.
I think the USGA under. It's a course they never had an open on, and
shouldn't go back.
No, I don't.
Shouldn't go back.
You have Bethpage Black, and you have Pinehurst
Hills is coming up next year.
Shinnecock, all these great venues that have had these historic runs. You have enough of a template to just keep working 20 or so courses that are great.
Well, they're trying to spread golf around. They've been up into Michigan and Wisconsin.
I mean, there's great
courses
in Wisconsin.
Washington with it. They come here to North Carolina. We've not had
Pinehurst is fine.
Well, see,
and that's why you have the PGA Championship. Let these courses have a PGA Championship. A U.S. Open needs to be.
See, I have a theory about that, and that is with that fescue. Some guys were reticent to take gambles, and sometimes when a golfer, you tell him don't take gambles, he ends up shooting better than he usually does.
Mm-hmm. Well, it wasn't the interesting kind of closing
and
days
that was
of the
Dustin
Open
Johnson's workout partner, wasn't it? But that's his workout guide.
Yeah, they're good buddies. Okay, we'll hit a break. We'll be back. Oregon State's with a 1-0 lead on LSU as they play the top of the third. Their winners bracket game at the College World Series. 800-956-7266 is our phone number if you want to join in on the program tonight. Love to hear from you. Have a few minutes left. So give us a call, comment on anything over the weekend, anything that you have heard from us tonight, or anything else that you want to bring up. That's certainly fine for us at this particular time. Let's see what else went on over the weekend besides the Open. The race at Michigan was pretty good until the last restart, and Kyle Larson blew everybody away with that and went on to another win. Boy, that's a strong team this year. But Michigan race was pretty good.
Where did Danica finish?
You know, she was kind of running up there in the top 15 until she got crashed out late.
No.
I think she hit some debris on the track or something.
Yeah,
Or
sure, it
became
wasn't
debris.
her fault.
I think she became debris on the track. Dale Jr., he does a podcast after every race. Did you know that?
Did not.
And
I'm sure he's drinking heavily and doing it.
I don't know. It's aired on Sirius, the NASCAR channel.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can say anything you want, right?
Right.
You don't have to bleep it out. And he was dropping in a lot of D's in that thing. He didn't say anything really strong.
No, he's popping
bombs.
But
Bud heavies. And
he was just talking about the race, and he was a little upset that NASCAR was throwing caution flags for debris. And he said, you don't need to call these caution flags now because you have 2 built-in caution periods with the end of each segment. He said, which were created to give NASCAR and to give television extra commercial time. And you don't need to throw these flags, these caution flags, for debris on the track that nobody can see, that kind of stuff. And he talked about, they ran 9th. He didn't miss any gears this time, that kind of stuff after having that trouble at Pocono. It's just funny listening to him kind of vent after a race. It's something that he really enjoys doing. They have is it a Twitter page or a website? I don't recall the name of, but it's something a little off the beaten path for him. But if you are a junior fan, you probably are aware of it. If not, check it out on the NASCAR channel after a race. They apparently run it on a few hours after the race, and it's good listening. So good win for Kyle Larson at Michigan yesterday. We'll talk more about that with Carrie Tharp tomorrow night on the program. And let's see what else is going on. Of course, the College World Series, the last big event of the college sports season, and always fun to watch. Just seems like a big party in Omaha. Great atmosphere. They had 17,000 plus today for the elimination game. I'm sure they've got a packed house tonight. Weather looks great. Setting in downtown Omaha is terrific. I've seen tweets from some of the people going to the Drover for dinner. Just makes you insanely jealous. The Drover is I remember my first year going to Omaha and going to one of the steakhouses, and there was a 30-ounce steak on the menu.
did you order it?
Of course.
Did you eat it all?
Of course. But nothing matches.
That's a lot of red meat.
Nothing
30 ounces,
matches.
Corn?
Nothing matches what Corey Miller ate last time we were out there.
But look how
together.
big he is.
Yeah, he took a picture of it. In fact, I still have that picture. He took the before and after picture.
It was bigger than 30 ounces?
It was about 35 ounces. Yeah, it was at the Drover. We went to the Drover, and it was huge.
How much is a 35-ounce steak at the Drover?
About, I think it was about $45. Yeah, it was pretty. It was pricey, but you don't care when you go to the Drover.
It's probably healthier to just line the $45 in cash than eat that.
Well, that's the place you have to go, the Drover. And of course, there's so many steakhouses around Omaha and other. I mean, they're big on Italian. I'll never forget my first time meeting Joe Moglia at Coastal Carolina. He had just become the head coach that fall. That I guess it was that December. And so we're doing the Palmetto Pigskin Tour, and I'm in his office for the first time. And of course, he had been living in Omaha. He was the coach and owner of that minor league team that was playing at TD Ameritrade. And of course, he was the chairman of whatever for TD Ameritrade, working out of Omaha. And he was doing some stuff for Tom Osborne and the people at Nebraska. So we're sitting in there chatting before we start the interview. And I said, I've been to Omaha a lot of times, been to a lot of great restaurants, and I was trying to come up with the name of this Italian place. He said, hang on a second. And he hit the speed dial to his office back in Omaha, and he got his secretary on the phone. And he said, so-and-so, he goes, what's the name of that Italian place that me and what's the real rich guy's name? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of that place Warren and I like to go for lunch a lot? Of course, Warren was Warren Buffett.
Mm-hmm.
And he just said Warren. And I'm thinking to myself, I wonder who pays for that tab whenever they run one up.
Well, since you could pronounce his last name Buffet, I guess he'd pay for it. Warren would pay for it.
Yeah, really. Absolutely. But can you imagine walking around Omaha and seeing, of course, Warren Buffett is probably easily recognizable. Maybe not Joe Moglia so much. But yeah, I guess they were good buddies. Money attracts money, and they hung out together, lunched together.
If I'm not mistaken, in this year's college football editions, either Sporting News or Lindy's has a big write-up on Joe Moglia.
Yeah.
And by being
he's done a great
coach.
job. He's done a great job.
Mm-hmm.
And, after he inherited the players that he inherited from David Bennett, you were wondering if the performance level was going to drop off, especially after that really good quarterback left. But, last year they survived as they made the transition to FBS and in the Sun Belt, a little bit tougher slate of games. And, they went through some real troubles at quarterback with all the injuries. Remember, they took the baseball player at the end of the year and made him into he took over at quarterback. Now they lose the great running back Henderson, who's probably going to, I think he's with the Broncos. He's going to probably make the Broncos roster this summer. So they lose a terrific player there, and they'll have some rebuilding to do. But I think he's proven his way works at Coastal Carolina. You ever go to one of their practices, it's unique in the way they approach things. Not a lot of contact at all. A lot of drill work in your various stations, music playing loud, and he's sort of that CEO. He goes from different spots on the practice field, watching his assistants do their thing. He chimes in whenever necessary. And they don't, they work hard, but they're out of there by 6:30, coaches included. Mm-hmm. He's not one of those guys that's going to keep you in there till 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. His belief is if we can't get it done from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., we're doing something wrong.
Well, more and more as you look at football, the way it's played now, obviously you still have to have the brawn, you still have to have the speed, have to have the big guys up front. But so much of it now, Corn, with all the throwing and the speed, is eye discipline. Mm-hmm. We've seen players who have great speed, but they don't have eye discipline, and they run themselves right out of the play. A guy maybe, a step or two slower has great eye discipline, can read his keys, and he's there. So I think probably when he runs a practice, they're probably teaching eye discipline as much as anything else, instead of the contact.
Yeah. All the little things that help you on the field, the fundamental things. And you're probably going to see with the new rules in place now, you're going to see less and less contact in the camps. That'll be opening up here pretty soon. We are basically tomorrow, the 20th. We're 5 weeks from USC opening camp, 6 weeks from Clemson. Yeah, USC goes off on the 27th of July. Clemson, August the 4th.
And of course, we've mentioned it before, and it hadn't been official to the day with Chuck Martin getting hired.
Oh yeah,
USC.
USC announced that today.
Yeah.
So former Indiana assistant coach and a pretty highly regarded guy coming to the USC bench to sit next to Frank Martin and the other guys. Okay, that will do it. Thanks again to Chad Holbrook for joining us tonight. You can catch that interview on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. Thank you, KMAC Pro and Jarmart. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.